Job Interview: 81 Questions, Answers, and the Full Preparation for a Job Interview. Written by Charles Jensen. Narrated by John Turner. Introduction. When you go to a job interview, what makes you stand out from others who applied for the same job? This book will help you answer that question. Employers and interviewers have a need. As an applicant, you may be able to fulfill that need. They need someone to do certain tasks and keep the company going. In order to fulfill that need, they try to be as specific as possible when they create a job description for applicants. But when a lot of people fit the description, or think they fit the description, they have the luxury, obligation, and difficulty of being picky. They want to make sure they choose the best employee for the job. That's why they have interviews. It's simple, and yet it could be hard. Just being yourself will not help you get a job. You have to be prepared. Those who are prepared have a better chance of being chosen. Moreover, you may want to go to the interview to find out for yourself if the job is exactly what you're looking for, if you get along with the employer, and to negotiate terms and salary. It's not just to get the job, it's to find out on both sides if it's a good match for you. In this book, you'll learn tricks, presentation tips, facts about nonverbal communication, and what to say when you're being interviewed. Don't wait. Get the most out of this book and continue with the first chapter. Chapter 1. Being Prepared. First of all, you need to be prepared for a job interview. That seems obvious, but let's go over some of the things that really matter. You see, at my first job interviews, I thought just showing up was enough and making a good impression by shaking hands, dressing up, or being myself. I was wrong. I remembered that one of my brothers, who knew exactly what to say in interviews, got hired for very high jobs when he didn't even meet the qualifications. His charisma and cleverness helped him get so far, but he didn't just do those things automatically. He learned how to do it. He was always prepared. When you go to a job interview, your employer wants to know if he or she is making the right decision considering you. A company or government organization will hire you and pay you for the work you do. If you don't do the work fast enough, correctly, or with the wrong attitude, this will have a negative impact on their business, their budget, and their time. Time and money are important for everyone, especially in business, and an interviewer wants to find out as quickly as possible if you are a waste of time or an asset to the company. Therefore, employers will always take a risk when they hire you. To discover how big the risk will be, they want to know about you, how much you cost, what you'll give in return, and if it's worth the investment. You could, for this reason, always expect talking about money. An interviewer may simply ask you what salary you want. If you say too much, they might not hire you. If you say too little, you might not get out of it what you want, and it takes down the appearance of confidence. Let me explain how this works. Let's say you are willing to work for $3,000 per month, and your employer is willing to pay you this. If you say $5,000, the risk might be too big for the employer, so he or she will go with someone cheaper. On the other hand, if you say only $1,500 per month, the employer may think, why so little? Is he not going to do a good job? Usually, they are willing to invest into someone who improves the situation, the sales, or the routines in their companies. They aren't always looking for minimum wage, cheap labor. Don't sell yourself short. If you have experience, then you are worth it. And you will tell your employer, interviewer, this by sending powerful messages. More about that later. Questions may go through the interviewer's mind like, is he tough enough to negotiate? What does he think he is worth? When will I get a return on investment? Answer with a question. Sometimes it could come in handy to answer a question with a question. For example, if you haven't figured out what you should get paid, you could ask, what do you typically pay someone for this position? One time, an interviewer asked me if I quickly disagree with people or cause arguments. He didn't ask this for nothing, so I wanted to know a little background. I sincerely returned the question with the answer, no. I try to solve problems without arguing. Why? Have there been problems with people arguing in this company? And what caused those arguments? What do you think is the best way to respond to people saying offensive things like that? This answer showed that I wasn't just going to assume what had happened, and at the same time gave me information about the company. Remember this, you're not just having an interview so that the employer can find out if you are suitable for the job. What's even more important is that you find out as well if you want to work for this employer or company. Don't answer every question with a question. Then it just seems like you're trying to avoid his questions, like you have something to hide. It's a conversation where you have to show curiosity about the position, the employer, the salary, and everything else. This is why you ask questions too, and this sends the interviewer the message that you are sincerely interested in learning more, not just hoping you get the position by giving the right answers. Let's get back to the main topic of this chapter, being prepared. Being prepared means being ready in every sense. It means you slept well enough, or at least show that you did, that you come on time, you find out where to go, you dress up nicely, more about that later, and you do your research. Being prepared also means being mentally prepared. The right attitude matters. And as I mentioned before, you are not just there to be a little pitiful, jobless, homeless worker hoping that someone will have a job for you. No. You are a person with skills, results, performances, a history of successes. Use those. The employer is looking for someone who has those skills or the right knowledge. If your personality, your skill set, and your experience match the job's If your personality, your skill set, and your experience match the job description, and the employer feels you will take the company or organization to a higher level, then you are worth a lot of money. Many people make this mistake. They start out with the mindset of, I need a job. Okay, true. But let's say you desperately look for a job, any job. You sign a year contract which will guarantee you $2,000 per month. That's a whole year of your life. Now let's say you spend every day, full time, looking for a better job, looking for the exact right match, and not just accepting every offer. Eventually you bump into a job that pays you $3,000 per month. Now, in the beginning, you may have spent some extra days or even weeks taking a loss, having a harder time paying the bills, or even getting into a little debt. But is $12,000 extra per year not worth it? You don't just need a job. One of these employers needs you. Keep that in mind. You are there to find out if this is what you want to spend your valuable time on, not just the other way around. Put aside the fear of having the job search take a little longer. You will want to know, for instance, if a job has a good salary, if you will find fulfillment in what you do, if there are possibilities to progress, learn new skills, get a raise, or climb the ladder to a higher position. The job is temporary or long-term. The people you work with are likable enough that they won't drive you crazy. If the employer you work for is a reasonable person. How many days you get off, how many benefits, etc. You can ask those questions because it's important for you to know, even if you get hired, even if you want to accept the job. Remember that you're going to spend a lot of time on the job and that this is your life. The interviewer will probably ask you at the end anyway, do you have any questions? If you answer with no, you're sending the message that you aren't particularly interested in the job or company. Always have a list of questions. The questions above sound a little selfish, so sometimes it's better to ask questions about the company first. Here are some suggestions. Why is this position available? Is this a new position? How long has this position existed? How many people have held this position in the last 2 years? Who would be my supervisor? To whom would I report? Whom will I supervise? With whom will I be working most closely? What do you like about working for this company? What are the current plans for expansion or cutbacks? What kind of turnover rate does the company have? How financially sound is this company? What projects and assignments will I be working on? What happened to the person that held this position before? Was he promoted or fired? What is this company's culture? Example, is it rigid and formal or relaxed and flexible? What are the current problems facing the company or my department? What do you like most about working for this company? The least. What is the philosophy of the company? What do you consider to be the company's strengths and weaknesses? What are the company's long and short-term goals? Describe the work environment. What attracted you, the interviewer, to this organization? Why do you enjoy working for this company? Describe the typical responsibilities of the position. What are the most challenging aspects of the position? Describe the opportunities for training and professional development. Will I receive any formal training? What is the company's promotional policy? Are there opportunities for advancement within the organization? When can I expect to hear from you? Anyway, enough about this. I'm going to give you 2 powerful tools you could use in any interview, introduction, or conversation. To be successful in presenting yourself, you need to create these and memorize them. Me in 30 seconds. The first tool is the introduction of yourself in 30 seconds. I've heard of so many people who are asked in the job interview, and they often ask this question as one of the first ones. So, tell me something about yourself. And sometimes you have these people who just have their mouths fall open and have nothing to say. Or they go on about their favorite TV show, their family members, or something that isn't related to work. But you're not going to fall into that trap. You'll have something to say. Remember, it has to be short, powerful, and meaningful. Talking an interviewer's ears off will leave a bad impression, and so will just mentioning 1 or 2 sentences. This is why there have been entire workshops devoted to something I haven't invented, namely me in 30 seconds. You get 30 seconds to tell something about yourself. Here's the best structure. 1. Name and age, family members, stuff like that, in short. 2. Short reason why you apply for the job. 3. Work experience, degrees, or something you achieved. The best would be to have all 3. 4. A hobby or passion. Here's an example of what this could look like. 1. My name is Thornton. I am 24 years old, and I'm the oldest in a family of 3 children. 2. I am applying to be your new manager of accounting. 3. I've had 6 years of experience, and I've led an accounting team of 5 people. Together, we decreased our costs last year by 15% and increased output by 23%. I graduated with a certificate in accounting, and I have a government license. 4. On weekends, I love a great game of football. What else would you like to know? It's extremely important that you don't just mess around with this. Think about the exact words you're going to say. Write it down and go over it. Let someone else check it for you, then practice it, perhaps in the mirror. Time it and see if it's under 30 seconds. Make sure you memorize it completely. Ready for another tool? This is the one you can use during your entire interview. Powerful messages. Powerful messages are not the same as bragging, as arrogance. If you are realistic and you don't exaggerate, then it's perfectly fine to mention something impressive you've done. I mean, really, how would it sound if you interviewed someone who said, "I'm actually not that good. I haven't done much in the past and people were not happy with what I did." Would you hire that person? Of course not. So tell the positive things about yourself. One common mistake is that people are too modest. They think that if they speak positively about themselves, they come across as prideful or boastful. This is far from the truth. In a way, you have to sell yourself. Your employer doesn't need to know everything about you. The overall impression needs to be positive. A powerful message is something that may help you stand out from the rest. It's something you tell your employer to ensure him or her that they can feel safe about hiring you. A powerful message or power statement always consists of 4 elements. 1. Identify one of your skills or strengths. What are you good at? 2. Give a specific example. 3. Tell the interviewer about an impressive result matching the example. 4. Match the employer's needs. Here's an example of such a powerful statement. Well, Mr. Johnson, the research I did about Sport Corporation was very interesting. You focus on selling sports equipment and you've been successful. I heard that you're starting some new improved products. I want to work with a successful company that is growing. I also know quite a bit about sports and exercise. Over the past year, I volunteered as a football trainer, and I helped the team improve both endurance and performance. I understand what you're trying to achieve, and I can help you do it. In this particular example, the interviewee starts out by matching his interests with the employer's needs. That's perfectly fine, but the rest of the statement needs to be in the same order. Powerful messages or statements can be extremely short. To arm yourself against awkward silences or having nothing to impress your employer with, you need to memorize as many of these as possible, always according to the truth, of course. Go over all your skills, past experiences, and write down which ones you can match with impressive results that will impress the interviewer. Here are a few more simple examples. I am a hard worker. I used to work as a translator for a company. I never missed my deadlines. When it looked like I lacked time, I worked overtime. I am willing to work just as hard for you and always make my deadlines. Another example. I have organizational skills. I once led a team of 7 people and organized activities for more than 100 children. All the children graduated because of the skills they were being taught. If you hire me, I will work well with your staff as well. Another example. I am good at convincing people. I once worked for a company selling subscription on the phone. In 3 months, I sold twice as much as 50% of the other salesmen. I am confident I can help you generate more revenue by increasing the sales of your products as well. Being prepared is knowing what to say and when to say it. Being prepared means memorizing, practicing, and timing. You cannot or should not go to an interview without having some simple sentences memorized that can answer simple questions such as, tell me something about yourself. That's me in 30 seconds. Tell me why I should hire you. That's an invitation to a powerful message. Why would you do better than the other candidates? Powerful message. What is one of your strengths? An invitation to give a powerful message. Chapter 2. Dressing Up. I won't go over all the dress code criteria because in different cultures it may differ, but in most cultures you need to dress to impress. It is always better to overdress than to underdress. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you expect that your interviewer will wear a dirty outfit, you come in nice jeans and a clean shirt. It means that if you expect your employer to wear something semi-casual, you come in a suit and tie. Again, this is not to brag or to show off. This is simply a matter of being polite and respectful. One interviewer advised me that even if I would apply for a job in a factory or as a garbage man, to come in a suit and tie just for the interview. Not for the job, of course. For men, suit and tie is usually a good way to go no matter what. A shirt without a tie normally looks sloppy. I don't care what others may wear. This is how it can come across, and you don't want to risk that. For women, dress up nicely. The best way would be in a dress or in a good-looking fancy pants or a skirt. Yes, you may show a little skin, but don't overdo it. Nothing is more distracting than too much cleavage, a naked belly, or a tank top with uncovered shoulders. This goes for both male and female interviewers. A male worker may be more inclined to hire you, but he may also think, well, besides her looks, nothing was really impressive about her. Besides, if he is married and tries to keep his thoughts decent, this may even be a turnoff. Don't come across as slutty. Be feminine, but not in a sexualized way. Show colors and fabric that match your eyes, hair, and personality. You dress to impress. If it's over the top, don't worry, because it shows that you are sincerely interested in making a good impression and becoming a serious candidate for the job. Chapter 3. Doing Research. This chapter consists of 2 parts: doing research on things related to the job interview, and where to look for jobs in general. Research before your appointment. One is obvious. It's doing research on your company, your employer, your interviewer, etc. If you show your interviewer that you know something about the market, the position, and other things, it will impress him or her more. Here are some things you should learn more about: the company's market, corporate environment, products and services, goals, competitors, failures and successes in the past. Look up recent articles about or developments in the company, knowing what's going on and be up to date. Here are some questions you may ask yourself and find answers to. How old is the company? How large is the company? What are its products or services? Who are its customers? Who are its major competitors? What are its reputation, industry standing? What are its new products or services? What are its short and long-term goals? How has the company resolved problems? Have there been recent employee layoffs? Where is the company's headquarters located? What are the backgrounds of the managers? What training programs are offered? This is all very important if you have a job interview scheduled, but I also want to emphasize a strategy that a lot of people are overlooking when searching for a job interview to begin with. Where to find jobs. This requires you to do some homework as well. You need to find what you're worth, your skill set and experience in the open market. Look at the competition, such as how many people are trying to get this job. People often overlook this factor. Classic examples are becoming a professional sports player, singer, or actress. So many people try to follow their dream and make this happen, but more than 99% fail. Why? Because the demand for such exceptional talents is very low, and the competition is high. You need a job where the competition is low and demand for such employees is high, the exact opposite. I'm not trying to discourage you from aiming high. Quite the opposite, actually. You need to aim high and realize your true potential. You probably have a lot more to offer than you give yourself credit for, and almost anything can be learned. All I'm saying is that you must do an analysis before jumping into a particular field. I have made this mistake a lot of times. I went to art college with the hope to find a job or business in which I could put my artwork. Well, actually, I'm finding ways to put my creative side, and even my art skills, into my current business. But back then, at the time, it wasn't such a great idea. My wife started a small business without doing research, a multi-level marketing business, and guess what? We made losses because the demand for the product was too low, and there were too many representatives in the area offering the same stuff. If only we would have known this, we wouldn't have invested a few $1,000s into it. It was a harsh lesson. Now let's talk about how to go about finding a good job. Many people miss the point on this. They look for jobs in advertisements on the internet. Hey, don't get me wrong. This could help as well, but there are several reasons why getting a job via networking is more reliable and has a higher chance of getting you one. These reasons are, when someone refers you, the employer already trusts that person in his or her judgment. You aren't as much of a stranger as when you apply online or via the newspaper. 2, since many people overlook this, there is less competition. 3, many employers are looking for new staff, but they cannot or won't place an ad. They will be delighted to find someone who might be interested in the available position. This way, they don't have to spend the time or money on ads, and the position may be fulfilled without costing them an arm and a leg. 4, when an ad is placed, the competition is already high. How many people do you think see that ad? Hundreds? Thousands? Imagine how hard it could be to stand out, as opposed to approaching someone personally who might have a job for you, but hasn't told others about it. To emphasize this fact even further, look at these stats from a research they did years ago. Advertisements, the internet, 65% of people look here, while only 14% of them find a job here. Government or private job placement services, 27% of people look here, while only 21% of them find a job here. Personal contacts with companies, 3% of people look here, while only 30% of them find a job here. And word of mouth, personal contacts and referrals, 5% of people look here, while only 35% of them find a job here. This is the hidden job market. Focus here and avoid 92% of the competition. To help you in this process, consider these networking tips. 1. Ask contacts for employment leads, information, and ideas. 2. Always ask for more referrals. 3. Keep accurate records and follow up. 4. Use your "me in 30 seconds" message and communicate a power statement. 5. Make phone calls. Approach people you know from a previous job, from school, parents from kids you meet, people in public, from church, sports clubs, etc. Chapter 4. Timeliness. Being on time matters, and I can't believe that there are so many people who slack off on this. Maybe it doesn't even matter at the job, and your employer will tell you this, depending on the job, whether you're always exactly on time. Perhaps come between 9 and 10 is good enough each day, and even when it says that in the ad, or if you heard that in advance, it's still important to come on time at your job interview. Why? Because it's the first impression. It shows the employer that you are punctual, that you don't forget things, and that this is important enough for you to be on time. Sure, sometimes public transportation doesn't help. Maybe it's not your fault that you're late, but the employer doesn't care. No excuse is good enough. So here's a tip for, if you happen to be late anyway, explain in 1 or 2 short sentences what happened and apologize elaborately. Assure the interviewer that normally this doesn't happen and that you're always on time. After that, quit talking about it. Don't use the expression, "it's not my fault," because it shows that you're not willing to take responsibility. Don't even use it when it really isn't your fault. The interviewer doesn't care. The best thing to do is to come early. Then you won't take as many risks. If you're driving and you know there could be a chance of a traffic jam, leave earlier. If you are traveling by train or bus, take one earlier, like an hour in advance. It's better to wait than to be late. Ha, that rhymes too. In certain cultures, it's even more important than in others to come on time, but I can guarantee you that every interviewer could possibly become annoyed when he or she has to waste time waiting. If you know you are going to be late, try to text, call, or contact them in some other way to let them adjust their expectations of your arrival. Anyway, let's move on to the next chapter, because this goes along with that topic very well. Chapter 5. First Impression. A first impression isn't everything, but it definitely counts for something. Don't underestimate this. The way you present yourself, the way you interact with the interviewer, it all sends out a certain vibe that he or she will remember. Here are some key elements of a first impression you should consider when you meet your interviewer. Nonverbal communication. The way you sit matters. Some people erroneously draw the conclusion that you are defensive when you cross your arms, for example. When you slouch, you're giving the impression that you do not have a lot of confidence or aren't interested. Crossing your legs might indicate femininity or vulnerability, while laying back and opening them may include arrogance or masculinity. Try to find the balance in this. Here are some other nuances of nonverbal communication. A firm handshake. This is one of the things you could do from the start. Practice it with your friends, family, or colleagues from your previous or current job. A firm handshake means be strong and hold tightly. No loose or wimpy hands. No squeezing for longer than a fraction of a second. Sensing when to pull the hand back, since shaking their hand for too long or too short may imply something. 1 or 2 shakes. This may seem an over-the-top explanation, but this is crucial. So many people I have talked to in business or jobs do not understand this. Posture. As I just mentioned, slouching is bad, but awkwardly being a stiff as well. Try to relax the shoulders while holding them up straight. This is also something you need to practice. Nodding. When they speak, you nod. Don't be freaky about it, but just show them that you're listening, that you understand and or agree what they're talking about. You can also affirm this by saying yes or several times. I know that when I'm talking to my wife and sometimes she doesn't say anything, my immediate follow-up question is, "Were you even listening?" Her answer then is, "Of course, honey." To which I respond, "Well, how do I know that if you don't say anything, you don't nod, and you look at your phone?" Phone off. This brings me to another point. Turn off your phone. Leave it in your pocket. Turn off the volume and don't check for messages or notifications. It is extremely rude to divert your attention to an electronic device. Make eye contact. People connect with each other by making eye contact. Staring is weird, but trying to listen by moving your eyes back and forth between their ears and their mouth area to better catch the words is a good rule of thumb. Speak loudly enough. You don't have to yell, but if you mumble, whisper, or don't speak up, the interviewer may conclude that you're insecure or shy. Moreover, he or she might not be able to understand what you're saying. Facial expressions. Your facial expressions convey your emotions. Smile a lot, but only smile at the right times. Fake smiles can look unnatural. The best thing to do is to pretend or try to at least be interested and happy. If you're in a good mood and you perceive the other person as your friend, a warm atmosphere of intelligence and power can come into the room, causing the other person to have feelings of confidence in you. Space. People want some space between them and others, but not too much. Sit or stand close enough to make yourself understandable and convey the message that you are interested, and at the same time, mind your proximity. Watch your tone. Your tone can indicate sarcasm, sincerity, frustration, enthusiasm, and more. Again, try to make this come naturally, but work on it. I noticed, for instance, that when I gave a presentation, I sometimes talked in a monotonous way, and I didn't even notice it until I saw it on a video. So practice makes perfect with this too. If you do well, you may be called in for a second or even a third interview. This is typical for jobs that have a high status or position, for which there are many candidates. Pat yourself on the back if this happens, but don't cheer before you get there. You are still competing against other candidates. Here are some other tips for the interview to make a good first impression. 1. Break the ice with small talk. If you know a way to figure out what the interviewer is interested in, then I definitely recommend doing some research on that to guide the conversation in that direction. For example, if he's interested in golf, you could ask him some questions like, "So have you gone golfing recently?" and talk about your experience with that. 2. The interviewer might give you a short overview of the position or the organization. Talk along with this and show that you're interested. 3. If it's a good interview, the questions he or she will ask you will take up the longest part. 4. Have some questions ready you can ask the interviewer at the end. 5. At the end of the interviewer will most likely explain what will happen next in the process. If he or she doesn't, make sure you ask about this. It is your right to know what to expect. Be sure to thank the interviewer for his or her time and tell them you will think about it as well. Because remember, they need your skills. It's not just that you need this job. Chapter 6. Confidence and Intelligence. Employers are usually searching for those who are confident, diligent, dedicated, trustworthy, skilled, and fast. When you are being interviewed, they try to weed out the ones who don't have those traits or habits. Sometimes they come up with strange questions that don't make any sense. They do this to test your creativity, your ability to respond quickly, and to get to the bottom of your personality. You could expect questions like, "If you were a car, which kind of car would you be?" It's not about the car. It's about you being able to identify yourself with something that is fast, sturdy, consistent, reliable, or something else. The reasons why you choose to be a certain car matter, and the way you are able to explain yourself. Another question could be, "Try to sell me this pencil in the next 2 minutes." This may be something that they want to see because they're testing how convincing or influencing your skills might be. Some annoying questions could be, why have you been in between jobs for so long? Did you not know what to do, or did nobody hire you? Typically, interviewers look for employment gaps on your resume and want to know what you've been doing in that time period. Confidence. We discussed the topic before, but I wanted to emphasize it again. Someone who is shy will not always be hired. Someone who only talks bad about himself or doesn't acknowledge his or her own capabilities is often perceived as someone who's wimpy, flaky, or hasn't grown up yet. No employer wants a kid. They want someone who will be independent after the proper training so that they or other managers don't have to waste their time on them anymore. We've talked about powerful messages indicating that you have accomplished things in life is a great way to show your confidence. If you don't feel confident, then sometimes it's better to fake it until you make it. I have a friend who applied for a job. He got through the interview and was finally asked the question, "How much do you know about Microsoft Excel?" When he told me the story, he admitted he had only worked with it a few times. He knew very little about it. However, he answered the question with, "That's a piece of cake. I could work with it no problem." Fortunately for him, the interviewer didn't dig any deeper and left it at that. Now, you could say this is lying, and I don't suggest that you lie, but this guy went home, thought, "Oh man, I better get to work." And that weekend he spent 3 full days on his computer learning everything there is to know about Excel. By the time he got hired, he knew all about it. The message from this example is not that you should always be bluffing, nor that you should tell half-truths, but I thought it was a funny way of faking confidence and then living up to his word. The fact that he spent every minute of his weekend learning that stuff shows that he was going to be a good employee, and perhaps I will let you be the judge of that. It was justified in this case. Imagine if he would have said, "I know almost nothing about Excel, but I will study it this weekend." Do you think he would have been hired? Probably not. To come across as confident and skilled is essential for nearly every job interview. Let your interviewer know that they made the right decision by hiring you and that there is no need to worry. Here are some simple tips to help you appear as confident. 1. Don't put your hands into your pockets. 2. Don't keep looking around. 3. Stand up. Mind your posture, shoulders back. 4. No fidgeting, scratching, shaking, tapping, or other nervous little tics. And 5. Have a firm handshake. I talked about this before. Intelligence. You don't have to take an IQ test, but coming across as an intelligent person matters. An employer will typically hire someone who is smart enough to do the job. Therefore, I've lined up some things you can or not to do to appear as more intelligent, namely the following. 1. No skimpy clothing. This may look sexy, but not as intelligent. Those who talk about or think about their body a lot aren't usually seen as the smartest people, whether this is true or not. 2. Wear glasses. Many people erroneously assume that someone with glasses is more intelligent. Well, if you wear them sometimes, you may use this to your advantage. Personally, I don't wear them, but I do wear them when I'm on the computer. 3. Watch your language. Swear and slang words, even a thick dialect, is often seen as a sign that you are dumb, even if you are not. I know all about it because I have worked in both high-class jobs and low-class jobs, and in the latter, they typically talk in a thicker local dialect. Cut out the and keep talking with too many pauses. I know this can be hard because sometimes you just have to think. But if you can eliminate this annoying word to listen to, then you'll make a better impression. The same goes for like or other words we put in there when we don't know what to say next. This should be easier if you practice your answers and powerful messages. 5. Cover up tattoos and get rid of piercings. I know many good people who are smart and have these. Still, there's no way around the fact that a lot of people will see these as trashy or rebellious. I even asked someone, a baker, if he would hire someone with a lot of tattoos and piercings. He said, "I have nothing against it, but I would be less likely to hire them." When I asked why, he answered, "Because a lot of people who do this, in my experience, are more sensitive or easily offended, and what they do to their bodies is a sign of that rebellion and defensiveness." Listen, it doesn't matter if he's right. It matters that people sometimes think this way and will be less likely to hire you if you ignore this. One pair of earrings for women, however, is globally and culturally accepted. 6. Take care of your teeth. People who are high class typically have better looking teeth. And 7. Nod and agree a lot. Ask questions. Squint your eyes and say, interesting. Avoid saying this every few seconds, but you could squeeze those words in there a few times. Chapter 7. Making a lasting impression. I am thoroughly convinced that the only way to be completely confident about your own abilities and the value you add to the company or the position is to let the employer feel, without being arrogant, that you will think about it as well. After all, I know you need work, but you wouldn't want to keep doing a job that doesn't take advantage of your skills, doesn't have any possibilities of growth, or isn't something you would enjoy, would you? So it's okay to be picky, even if you desperately need money. Conveying this message is a matter of saying something like, "Thank you for giving more information about this position. I'll think about it at home. I'm sure I will help your company if I decide to accept the job." Even if your interviewer chuckles and says something like, "Why? Aren't you sure you want the position anymore?" you can still answer something like, "I'm very certain, but I also came here to find out more about it. After all, I'll be putting my valuable time and skills into this. I want to put them to good use." See how you could show forth your power and value by saying something like this. It's a lot better than shaking the interviewer's hand and saying, "Thank you, sir. I really hope I get the job because I need it." That is the wrong approach. The thank you note. Always send the thank you note after the interview. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be with flowers. Just a simple card with something like, "I want to thank you again for the interview on such and such a date for the position of, and I'm looking forward to discussing more about the job in the future. I appreciate the time you took to show me around and explain more details about the tasks ahead. I'm excited about the new position, which reminded me of the time I add powerful message with result. I am sure you will appreciate it when someone can do that for your company. Again, thank you for your time. Hope to hear from you soon." This way, you will be ahead of so many other candidates who often forget this step. I've never met an interviewer who saw this as sucking up. They simply enjoy the politeness and are impressed with you being on top of things. And the most important element is the powerful message in there. You may not have been able to mention it in the interview, or you came up with it later, but this thank you note is just another opportunity to sell yourself and to convince the employer that you are fit for the job. Follow-up calls. Naturally, you don't want to bother your employer too much, but a simple follow-up call after the set expired time period would suffice. This is not intrusive. It shows that you're excited about the job and that you want to know whether you got hired or not. When you speak to the interviewer or someone else on the phone, just ask him or her if they have any update and what to expect. If the person on the phone informs you that you did not get hired, you should try to find out why. Even though this may be disappointing, you will learn a lot from this. See it as critical feedback to help you improve and stand a better chance at your next job application. If the person on the phone tells you that they don't know when they will know, then follow up again after a few days. Always thank them for their time. Chapter 8. The 81 Most Frequently Asked Questions and Answers. Now we've come to one of the most important parts of the job interview, the questions. I already mentioned some questions they could ask you, but here you will find an extensive list so you can go over each of them and practice with a friend and/or family member what to reply. Question. Tell me about yourself. Answer. Practice the me in 30 seconds and present this as the answer to the question. We've already gone over this, but just to refresh your memory and so that you don't have to go back to the beginning of the book, here it is again. 1. Name and age, family members, stuff like that in short. 2. Short reason why you apply for the job. 3. Work experience, degrees, or something you've achieved. The best would be to have all 3. And 4th, a hobby or passion. Here's an example of what this could look like. 1. My name is Anthony. I am 29 years old. I'm the second oldest in a family of 4 children. 2. I am applying to be a sales representative because I've had a lot of success in this past field. 3. I've worked at DirecTV, where I sold subscriptions, knocking on doors, and informing people about our membership plan. Within several months, I made more than 150 sales, and I've only become better at it. Now that I've finished my business degree at the University of Texas in Austin, I want to take things to the next level. And 4, when I'm not working, I love to spend time with my wife. We are newlyweds, and I enjoy playing the occasional game of basketball or draw cartoon comics. What else would you like to hear about me? Question: where do you see yourself in 5 years? Answer: the interviewer wants to know if you see yourself working in this job, even after 5 years. He probably doesn't want to hire you only to let you go a few years later. The correct answer to this in most cases is something like, working for you, obviously. Understand that there are many things to learn, and would love to learn more in the process of working here. In 5 years, I aspire to increase the efficiency of the company's routines and perhaps gain a management position. Question: are you willing to move here? Answer: the answer is always yes. If you're not, then why would they hire you? Question: how long does it take you to get here from where you live? Answer: if it takes more than an hour or half an hour, you could explain that you're willing to travel each day or that you plan on moving once you get hired. Question: would you work overtime? Answer: be careful with this one. Of course, the answer should be yes, but you need to protect yourself. Ask some questions back about how often it happens that people work overtime in this company, how the wages are when you work overtime, etc. Remember that you aren't just trying to get the job, you're also trying to figure out if this is a job you want. If your job turns into slave labor, well, it's up to you, but if you have a family life or other important things going on in your life, you might have to say no if they require you to work 50, 70 hours per week without paying you extra for overtime. In my opinion, overtime should always be rewarded. When an interviewer told me that overtime was rewarded at a regular hour wage, I let him know shortly afterwards that I refused the job and was going to keep looking. I'm glad I didn't take that job because something better did come along. Question: which books are you currently reading? Answer: the employer wants to know what you're interested in. Forget Harry Potter or those fantasy novels you love so much. This is not important. If you could answer this question with any books related to the position you're trying to acquire, then do it. It doesn't matter if you're currently reading those books. If you have in the past, then just answer something like, well, at the moment, I'm a little too busy to read much, but last year I read a book about the production process and distribution centers that taught me a lot of things I could use in this position. Don't bluff, because it's likely that the interviewer will ask a follow-up question such as, oh yes? What did it teach you? Question: what is the last movie you saw? Answer: same thing. The interviewer wants to get to know you. There are no wrong answers unless you refer to something taboo like a porn movie, a sadistic, violent horror show, or something completely childish like the latest Disney movie for ages 3 to 6. Unless you did it for your toddler, of course. Question: what are your hobbies and interests? Answer: your hobbies say something about your initiatives and creativity. Art, drawing, musical instruments, sports, reading, a side business, hiking, outdoor stuff, all those are right answers. Try to avoid saying video games or watching TV. Those aren't real hobbies, according to many people. They're just ways to pass time by using the media and sitting on your butt with a remote or a controller. And even though there are many things you learn from watching certain movies or playing strategic games, these are often connected to laziness or immaturity. Question: which jobs did you have as a teenager? Answer: even though the employer already has your resume in front of him or her, you may be able to expand on this and send a powerful message by saying something like, I was hired as a translator for a few months, and I always made my deadlines. The only reason why they had to let me go is because it was temporary. They already had too many full-time translators. Question: who are your references? Answer: name them and mention what you did for them. You could slip a powerful message or statement in there by saying why one of those people had no trouble referring you. Question: how is your health? Answer: what kind of question is this, right? Well, the interviewer wants to know if you will show up every day, not just call in sick. He wants to know if he could rely on you being healthy enough to do the required tasks. Be honest about it. If there isn't anything serious, just tell him or her straight up that you are fit as a fiddle. Question: How do you balance career and family? Answer. You may think that the right answer should always be work first, but you might be wrong. Of course, your employer doesn't want you to skip work to be with your family, but that's not just what the question is about. If you let your employer know that both are important, it will send the message that you care about your family and that you aren't a senseless robot. Question. What is your greatest strength? Answer. This is a perfect question to sound a powerful message. Mention one of your best qualities, such as being a planner, organizer, leader, great with routines, motivated artist, a team worker, a motivator, a convincer, bookworm, analyst, or something else. Then back this up with an example and a measurable result. Question. What is your greatest weakness? Answer. Careful with this one. Don't say you have no weaknesses. This comes across as arrogant, and by the way, I don't care who you are, it's not true. Everyone has them. But if you mention something without turning it into something positive, you could fail at answering this question correctly. The right answer should be your weakness plus an example plus how you turned it into something positive. For example, I'm so goal-oriented that I can't take it when I don't meet my goals. Sometimes this leads to a little more stress than I would like, so I get a little agitated. However, it also makes me stay focused, and eventually I get the task done. Let me tell you about a time this happened. Nobody thought I could meet my deadline, but I was determined to ... etc. This shows you understand your limitations, but you're able to use them to your advantage. Question. Do you work better alone or in a team? Answer. This will depend on the position. Answer honestly and give an example. You could refer to a great project you did with a team or an individual task that was left to you and that you completed successfully without needing help. Question. Are you a risk taker? Answer. This also depends on the position. In most cases, you want a good medium. Many employers don't want the ones they hire to be reckless, but they don't want them to chicken out when something needs to be risked either. A good response would be, I believe in taking smart risks. I think it's important to analyze the risk before taking it so that money or time doesn't get lost. Knowing what you're doing makes all the difference. How much one should analyze the risk depends on what it is. I am careful and I think doing research is important, but I'm not afraid to make a quick decision when the time is there. Question. How will you handle change? Answer. In most cases, things change all the time in the company, so the answer should be that you're good at handling it. If the job requires routine work, you could add that too. You're okay with change, but that you prefer routines and that you don't get bored with them. You could give an example to back this up. Question. What would you do if a coworker or employer criticized you? Answer. Many people have a hard time with this criticism. Your employer doesn't want to deal with someone who is self-righteous or arrogant, so it is best to say something like, I always listen, and I try to see past my own ego so I could learn from others. If their advice makes sense, I am open to change. You could give an example of something someone told you in the past, how it opened your eyes and improved your work routines. Question. Are you okay with doing routine work? Answer. Depends on the job, so answers will vary. Of course, if the position requires routine work, your answer should be yes. Question. How do you resolve disputes? Answer. Some people are so confrontational that they offend people. Others avoid conflict at all costs and therefore create problems in the long run. Both are terrible extremes. It depends on your position and your personality what you should answer. I would avoid things like, I just say it as it is, or I'd rather not mention it if something happens. You could say something like, I'm not afraid to confront people when something really has to change, but I don't make a fuss about little things that don't matter. For example, ... Question. Why should we hire you? Answer. This is another general question that opens up the door for a powerful statement. Try to adapt the example to the position you're applying to. An example is, I think you should hire me because I'm excellent at leading a team. At my last job, we had to do a monthly project and I was able to coach everyone so good that we achieved the same results as the other teams, but twice as fast. Question. Which kinds of people do you get along with? Answer. The interviewer wants to find out if you fit into the team. If you study your role or the position you apply for, you'll be more capable of answering this in the right way. Be honest and be positive. This question is positive anyway, so it gives you an opportunity to praise others and come across as a reasonable person. You could go on for a minute or two about what you liked about some of your coworkers, what you appreciated about their communication, their work ethic, etc. This also says something about yourself. If you say, for instance, I got along with Jack very well. He was one of my coworkers, and the reason I like working with him is because he didn't beat around the bush, just got the job done. I think it's important to get things done on time. In a way, you're selling your own attitude towards deadlines this way. I like Veronica because she always asks the right questions. In my opinion, it's essential to do anything right and accurately, to ask the right questions. I always do my research first, and I appreciate it when others do this as well. Question. Which kinds of people don't you get along with? Answer. This is not a trick question. The interviewer just asks this question to see when people are pushing your buttons and how you will react. Please don't make the mistake to see this as a chance to complain a lot. Keep it short and try not to make it sound as a complaint. Again, you can actually use this to your benefit to sell yourself as someone who's understandable and cares about others and the success of the company. Here's how you can do this. I don't like it when people don't make their deadlines, especially in a team effort. It's not fair to others who have worked hard and got more work done. I think for the sake of the group and the company, be okay to confront such a person in a friendly way. This shows you care about the feelings of others, equality, fairness, etc. You could also say something like this. I don't like it when people waste time on useless tasks when there are more important things to do. A company could face some serious losses, even if the little things add up when someone isn't being efficient. This shows you care about the costs and profits of the company. Question. What would you do if a supervisor asked you to do something you didn't want to do? Answer. You could be tempted to say that you would blindly obey, but most employers like someone with integrity. They know you are honest. They can rely on the fact that you won't show up work for late, call in sick when you're not, steal stuff from the warehouse or office, etc. You could simply say that you have your moral and ethical limits, or you could return the question by asking, what kind of thing did you have in mind? And then determine if your conscience would allow you to go that far. Question. Why did you quit or get laid off from your last job? Answer. This is a tricky one because you should be honest, but not say something negative about yourself. You could keep it simple like, they had too much staff and they were cutting costs, or communication was lacking. There were lots of problems in that company, or perhaps the best one with a smile. I quit because I wanted to work for this company. Question. What is your personal opinion of your last employer? Answer. Be careful to not say anything negative, even if you hated your former employer. Be prepared for this question because it is common. If you say something negative, the interviewer will think, well, if he or she talks about his or her previous employer in this way, he or she is probably going to complain about me in the same way. Tell the interviewer that you got along, that your previous employer was a smart business person, and that he or she knew how to run a company. Question. What is one of your most impressive career results? Answer. Answer this with a powerful message. Remember to name an example and a measurable result, not something vague. Practice at home what to say. Like, I made $110,000 in revenue last year. Is a lot more impressive than, I get along with kids very well. Unless, of course, you're applying for a child daycare center. If you can, make it so that it relates to the job you're applying for. Question. What kinds of tasks did you perform at your last job? Answer. This shouldn't be too hard to answer. If you can, name tasks that show you have experience in the same field. So if you apply for an office job, for example, don't mention the task of doing the dishes or taking out the garbage at your previous job. Rather, tell your interviewer everything you did on the computer. Question. Have you ever been fired or asked to resign? Answer. If you have, be honest and say so. Do not go into detail about conflicts or weaknesses you may have. You can simply explain the situation and tell the interviewer that you understand your previous employer's decision to let you go. This shows that you have empathy and you're able to see things from another person's perspective. Question: who is your favorite employer and why? Answer: remember to not mention what you disliked about the least favorite. If this follow-up question comes, why do you like him or her better than the others? Be sure to stay positive about what you liked, not about what you disliked. You could praise qualities in your former employer if the question comes. Which did you hate or dislike the most? You could say something like, it's not that the others were bad or that I didn't like them. I just liked that one the best. If I had to pick, I would go for Mr. Johnson. Even though he was a very good employer, I just had less of a click with him. We talked less, so there was more of a distance. Also, remember that what you praise in your former employers says something about what you value in an employer. Efficiency, communication, empathy, honesty, precision, intelligence. If you praise these things in your former employer, it means that you appreciate those qualities as well and that you strive to perfect them. And that may be exactly what your interviewer wants to hear. Question: what is one of the worst decisions you ever made? Answer: tricky. Watch out for this one. Don't say you've never made a bad decision. It's not true. Be honest, but try to turn it into something positive by adding what you did to solve your mistake. Here's an example. I once told a customer on the phone that a certain product was out of stock, but I didn't know about the new supplies that had arrived that morning. The customer was very disappointed because he needed it as fast as possible. However, when I hung up and asked about it, I found out that we had the new supplies. I then searched all the files to find that customer, call him back, and inform him we could take this order. I apologized for the miscommunication and helped him get what he needed. If you put it this way, the story emphasizes your problem-solving skills. Question: aren't you overqualified for this job? Answer: I've been asked this question personally. I thought it was a bit strange since I clearly wanted the job. That's why I was there, duh. The interviewer may see that you have a high degree or lots of experience and is afraid you will leave them after a short time to aspire to something higher. To answer this question, you need to re-emphasize your enthusiasm for the tasks ahead and relate those tasks to specific passions or interests you've mentioned earlier. Question: what salary are you expecting? Answer: make sure to do your research and leave space for some negotiating. If you aren't sure, you might want to tell the interviewer, I'd rather discuss this later. If you know what a typical employee or manager in this position gets paid, then say something similar to that. Don't say to please the interviewer, because if you aren't content, you're going to have a hard time working there. Show that you know about the market and the demand for people with your skills. Don't say a salary that's too high either. This could be a turnoff. Question: what do you know about this company? Answer: tell the interviewer everything you've discovered when you did your research. Then say something like, as you can see, I've looked up quite a bit, but I'm very curious about learning more. Question: why do you want this position? Answer: well, why do you want this position? Don't just mention the money, but show that you're excited about working there. Attach your enthusiasm to your passions and skills. Also slip in a powerful statement if you can, something like, I love working with people. Your company offers many opportunities to work in teams. I've managed teams of 10 people before with great success, and I'm sure I could do the same for your company. Question: who or what inspires you? Answer: sometimes this question will be asked as, who or what motivates you? For this question, it is okay to dig deep and let him or her know what you find exciting about the new job. Question: why do you want to work for this company? Answer: you could praise the company a little, but this is another question to help you sell yourself. For instance, I am confident that I could take the department I will work at to the next level is something you could say. Or perhaps, I am impressed with the way your company handles things. It's the way I usually do things as well. I think I will fit in well. And then more specifically, of course. Question: when can you start? Answer: as soon as possible. Remember, they are looking for someone to fill a gap. They usually don't want to wait. Question: how long do you think you will work for us? Answer: long. Let your employer know how long you are planning to be there. If they are looking for a 10-year contract and they suspect you'll be leaving after 2 years, they might be reluctant to hire you. Question: are you considering offers from other employers? Answer: of course. If the employer decides to hire you, he or she doesn't want to start the process all over again by having to say no and take a different job. The urgency matters. Remember that you aren't just looking for a job, they are looking for a suitable candidate that can help their company. If you have the right skills, you are valuable in their eyes. Be honest about this. There is no right or wrong answer. In most cases, you cannot pressure your employer because you might just go to someone else if they didn't react quickly. But if you're considering other offers, you can definitely expect the follow-up questions. Which ones? Be ready for this. Question: is there anything else I should know about you? Answer: again, this is an opportunity for a powerful message. If you have one left that you didn't mention yet, then come up with that one. Remember to name a trait, an example, and a measurable, impressive result. You could smooth your way into this by saying something casual like, I was just thinking when you mentioned, fill in the blanks. It reminded me of something I always do. I have the tendency to, some positive quality, and then this is what happened, and then add an impressive performance. Question: which aspects of the job appeal to you the least? Answer: try to mention something that doesn't matter much. For example, I get a little tired of sorting data sometimes, but since that's only something I'll need to do for 30 minutes at the end of the week, this won't be a problem. If you need to sit down all day working on the computer, of course, your answer shouldn't be, I hate staring at a screen all day. The interviewer needs to think that you will love most aspects of the job. Question: how will you handle those aspects? Answer: assure the interviewer that they won't be a problem. Give an example of how you handled those tasks before in a positive way. Question: what are you looking for in a job? Answer: of course, your answer should be what the job is offering you. Depending on which job you are applying for, this could be the freedom to do my own thing, or working in a team, or completing a challenge, or figuring out data, or working with people, or putting my passion into practice by, etc. Question: how did you improve the costs, profit, or efficiency in your last job? Answer: again, have enough powerful messages memorized to answer this effectively. Question: do you know our competitors? Answer: I sure hope you did your research on this. Don't just study the company you work for, but the competitors as well. Most companies keep a close eye on the competition. They copy, differentiate, and dwell on the success or failure of others in the same field. Do your homework and find out what distinguishes this company from competitors. Look up similarities, size, numbers, revenue and profits, target groups, websites, colors, sales, marketing efforts, advertising, unique selling points, and other facts. Question: how long have you been searching for a job? Answer: be honest, but don't make it sound like you're desperate or like you cannot find anything. Say something like, for about 3 months now, I had the option of doing some side jobs, but I wanted to plan for the long haul. I even turned down a few offers because I wanted to keep searching until I would find the perfect match. I've been calling, emailing, and applying for so long because I didn't want to commit to a job I would quit anyway. I'm glad I found this job because I am confident I will be a good match for this position. I think I finally found what I'm looking for. When you say this, it doesn't sound negative, does it? It turns your experience into enthusiasm for the job you're applying for, which is exactly what an interviewer wants to hear. Moreover, you promote your value and skills by saying you don't just accept any offer. Your time in your life is too valuable for this, and you are not desperate. Question: what was one of your favorite jobs you've had, and why? Answer: tell the interviewer about a job that was similar to this one, or at least required similar skills. Even here, you could sell yourself by saying that you liked the one job so much because it became naturally and you discovered you had a knack for it. Question: could you explain the gaps in your employment history? Answer: there are many things you could say here, but try to make it sound like you did this on purpose. You can talk about a study you did, or that you didn't just want to accept any job and that's why you kept looking. Don't say, I couldn't find any work. Don't say anything that indicates you're either being lazy or playing around either. Emphasize that you worked hard and did a lot of networking to end up in the right position, which I hope you did anyway. Question: how would your coworkers describe you? Answer: think about your me in 30 seconds. Describe some of your best qualities. You could say something like, most of them saw me as friendly, optimistic, and diligent. I got along with them very well, and everyone knew I was a hard worker. Question: why are you applying for a job that doesn't relate to your college degree? Answer: the worst answer would be, because I couldn't find anything related to my degree. Instead, say something like this: I just decided to head in a different direction. However, I still see opportunities that apply the skills I learned in college. Then give some examples. The interviewer doesn't want anyone who changes his or her mind all the time, nor does he or she want someone without any related experience. If your college degree has absolutely nothing to do with the job you're applying for, you could always fall back on general skills like meeting deadlines, organizing information, working in groups, finishing something you started, working hard, financial planning, computer skills, doing research, etc. Those are things students do in every college. Question: how have your school and degrees prepared you for this position? Answer: see the previous question. Make sure you can find things from your schooling that relate to this position. Question: are you going to pursue any further education? Answer: the employer doesn't want you to quit and go back to school if he or she hires you. So this is just a question to help him plan carefully. Be honest. You could also say something like, well, I am always open to learn more, but I'm sure I could learn a lot in the process of working here. There's always room for improvement. Question: why were your grades in school not very good? Answer: you'll want to be honest, but turn it into something positive as well. You could, for example, say that your grades do not reflect all the things you've accomplished in your internship, that you'll be happy to show your interviewer your portfolio. Another answer might be that your grades were lower because you spent a lot of time working at jobs to pay for college, get involved in volunteer work or extracurricular activities, or take care of a family member or friend. However, that answer is not enough because it could be seen as an excuse. If you use this answer, make sure to add that what you've learned from that experience and that you wouldn't make the same mistake again. You saw how these things negatively influenced your grades, and you would have done it differently if you were given the chance. If you add this, you show strength by being willing to admit mistakes and learn from them, and at the same time, you aren't indicating you are too lazy or incompetent to get high grades. Question: which extracurricular activities did you participate in? Answer: answer this honestly. Try to put more emphasis on the ones that relate to the job you are applying for. Question: if you had a personal mission statement, what would it be? Answer: it would be better to have this one ready so you could memorize it and say it. It should be one of those things in life you should think about anyway. Here are some steps to develop a personal mission statement. 1. Look at the lives of others. The achievements, personality, and qualities in people you admire should lay the foundation for your mission statement. 2. Determine your ideal self. Look at you as a parent, teacher, role model, participant, partner, worker, etc. You could write something like, as an ideal spouse, I want to. 3. How do you want to be seen? What do you want your legacy to be? How do you want others to talk about you when you're gone? 4. Decide on your purpose, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, etc. And 5. Base your statement on your best talents, strengths, and aptitudes. These give you more fulfillment. 6. Set specific goals. And 7. Put it all together. Here are 2 examples of a mission statement. Example 1. My mission in life is to have my own family. I need to remember that what I do now in my life will affect them. Because of this, I try my best to do the right things that will benefit my future. I would someday like to have a large farm with horses where I can help handicapped children. I'd like to work with animals, perhaps even be a veterinarian. Most of all, I want to have time for my family. So today, I will study hard and stay away from things that may hinder my dream from happening. Example 2. To find happiness, fulfillment, and value in living, I will seek out and experience all the pleasures and joys that life has to offer. My core values are not limitations restraining me on this hedonistic quest for fun. Rather, they provide a framework for identifying, pursuing, and achieving those pleasures that last the longest and are the most satisfying. The greatest joy of all is being worthy of the respect and admiration of family, friends, and business associates. Question: how would you describe yourself in one word? Answer: match the job. It's not good enough to describe your best quality or trait, no matter how accurate this may be. You want to convince the interviewer that you're the right person for the job, so you need to pick a word that relates to the tasks ahead. Here are some words you should consider. Which one you pick will depend on the position you apply for. Enthusiastic, creative, active, successful, motivated, strategic, helpful, responsible, dedicated, honest, versatile, valuable, organized, focused, productive, steady, flexible, tenacious, analytical. Be sure to back the word up with an experience, an impressive result, and everything else that comes with a powerful message or statement. Question: what makes you feel unique? Answer: this one is similar to the previous question. Describe something impressive about you and give an example, something that relates to the job you apply for. Question: how does this position fit your career plans? Answer: explain that this is the job you're looking for, that it relates to what you've been aiming at, and that you want to keep doing this in the future. If you don't do this, you might not get hired. It's a long-term contract the employer is looking for. Question: do you often look at the bigger picture or the details? Answer: the answer will depend on your future tasks in this position. If you're a big thinker, but you get hired to organize names and folders, then you might want to consider doing something else. If you lean towards perfectionism and a slow energy, you might not want to be in a quick decision-making leadership position. Question: what's your work style like? Answer: here's some things to consider when answering that question. Make sure your answer fits the job description. Depending on the position, you will have to mix and match the different opposites in this little list. Speed versus accuracy. Focused on one thing versus multitasking. Structuring versus quick decision-making. Working alone versus working in a team. Communication, phone, in person, or email. Remember that this question about work style is another opportunity for a powerful message. You could answer something like this: I am dependable. I have not missed a single day of work, and I'm well known for coming in early and staying late to finish important tasks and achieve results. This dependability extends to my collaborative work as well. I always meet deadlines and assist my teammates in meeting theirs as well. For instance, on my last project, a teammate had a hard time completing his task for the team, and I stayed late each day that week to help him not only complete his assignment, but exceed our initial estimations for the project. Question: what can you contribute to this company? Answer could be more efficiency, lower costs, a faster speed, increased precision, a better work atmosphere, more profit, meeting deadlines, more revenue, a better relationship with customers or suppliers, etc. Again, use powerful messages with experiences in the past, connect them to the employer's needs, and emphasize your value to the company. An example could be this: in my other jobs, I manage teams, myself, and several projects. I've created and implemented different measurement tools that have helped evaluate and improve business practices, and utilize my research and analytical skills to uncover and correct inefficiencies within the company. I'm able to work well with others, but I'm also quite competent in working by myself. I'd love the opportunity to contribute these and other qualities in this position. Question: what is your management style? Answer: divide this answer into 3 parts. First, define what good management is. Say something like, I think that in general, a good manager gives directions and helps and provides expertise where needed. Second, affirm that you have that good management style by saying something like, I also got out of my way to assist others. I don't just wait for their questions, I go to them, taking the initiative and preventing them from making mistakes. And third, add an experience that illustrates what you just claimed. Something like, one time I was leading a project and I supervised 8 staff that involved everyone working on a separate aspect of the product. This meant a lot of independent work for my team, but rather than bog everyone down with repetitive meetings to update me and everyone else on the progress made, I created a project wiki that allowed us to communicate new information when necessary without disrupting any team member's work. I then made it my job to make sure no one was ever stuck on a problem too long without a sounding board. Question: what are your goals for this job? Answer: align your goals with those of the organization. Even if you don't spend your whole career working for the same employer, make sure you actually have some goals. Here are some good examples. My long-term goals involve growing with a company where I could keep learning, get more tasks, and play different roles, and contribute as much as value as possible. I love that your company emphasizes professional development opportunities. I intend to use these to my best ability. Or, I see myself as a top-performing employee in a well-established organization like this one. I plan on strengthening my skills and continuing my involvement in related professional relationships. Or another: once I gain more experience, I'd like to move on from a technical position to a management one. I know this is a common direction for many employees in this position. However, for now, I am excited about focusing on and applying my technical skills in this job. Question: can you give me an example of when you were in a position of leadership? Answer: answer with an example and a powerful message by telling your interviewer which results you achieved when you were in that position. Question: how do you deal with stress or a heavy workload? Answer: possible answers could include: stress is very important to me because it helps me perform better. I react to situations rather than to stress out. If a problem needs to be solved, it's perfectly natural to feel a little adrenaline or cortisol, but that's what keeps me going. Or, I actually work better under pressure, and I've discovered that I enjoy working in a challenging environment. Challenges are what make life interesting. And, from a personal perspective, I manage stress by visiting the gym every evening. This is how I release some tension. Question: what would you do if you didn't think you could finish your deadlines? Answer: possible answers are outsource or delegate a task, or work overtime, or see if the deadline could be extended, or prioritize and get the most important things done in time. Question: how do you interact with complaints from customers? Answer: tell the interview that you empathize with customers and you want to meet their needs. Give examples of how you stayed polite, even when a customer was rude, and how you solved the problem without giving up too much money or other resources. My brother said his interviewer was impressed when he expressed his opinion about keeping customers and turning them into returning customers by providing the best, friendliest service so that word of mouth would do its work and the company would make more money in the long run from people who are actually satisfied. Question: can you describe a time when you failed? Answer: this question may seem like a hard one to answer. Here you are trying to impress the interviewer, and he or she is asking you to reveal a flaw. How do you answer this question correctly? The secret lies in 3 major components. 1. Show that you are mature enough to acknowledge failure. You aren't arrogant or overly sensitive, and you admit to imperfections. 2. Tell the interviewer how you reacted and solved the problem. This shows you are a problem solver, and you don't just mope around when you are confronted with one. And 3. Tell your interviewer what you learned. This indicates that you've grown and that you're capable of making progress and improving yourself. Question: what are you passionate about? Answer: relate your answer to the tasks that are part of the job. Question: what motivates you to come to work each day? Answer: this is similar to the previous question. You should re-emphasize your enthusiasm and connect it with your skills, your past successes, and the job at hand. Question: what are some of your core values? Answer: match your answer with the job description. Here are some examples of possible answers. the desire to build long-term relationships, the need to treat others with respect and to appreciate their time, placing an emphasis on effective communication, a healthy work-life balance which includes adequate vacation and recovery time. Question: do you like structure or variety? Answer: your answer should be connected to your personality, but mostly to the job. Is this job going to have a lot of structure? Will there be a lot of different tasks and changes during each day? Modify your answer according to the job and back it up if you can, with an experience you've had where you were great at working in a structural, organized way, or on the other hand, improvised and solved the problem that came at you. Question: how much did you earn at your last job? Answer: be honest and estimate. Question: if you would be an animal, which would you be and why? Answer: sometimes they just want to throw you off guard when they ask you this, or add some humor to the conversation, and other times they really want you to be creative and describe your personality this way. Here are some pointers you could use. A horse: it's really strong, able to function alone well or as part of a team. Ants: hard workers, the ultimate team player. Monkeys: they're quick learners. An elephant: strong, intelligent, loyal to the group, and unstoppable. A dolphin is also intelligent and actually considered one of the smartest animals. Dogs are seen as man's best friends, so might be good for someone in a support role. With a dog, you get loyalty and friendliness, also protectiveness, but that's probably only required for bodyguards. Question: if you could do things over in your life, what would you do differently? Answer: although this question may appear to be an intrusion of your personal life, your interviewer just wants to know if you have any past obstacles and regrets that might impact your work at their company. They also want to know if you hold on to the past and are able to learn from it and move forward. Keep things positive and give examples of how you've grown from past situations. Tell him or her about a mistake, what you learned from it. Concentrate on the fact that you have no major regrets and are happy to keep moving forward. Don't tell him or her about a broken relationship, a sob story, or dropping out of school. Don't say that you should have worked harder at your last job. Here's a personal example I shared when I applied for and got accepted for a certain job. In high school, I was doing the highest curriculum possible. Although I was very good at many topics, I sometimes had a hard time with complicated methods they used in math. When I noticed my grades weren't good enough, I took extra classes after school and studied exams from previous years to further educate myself. Looking back, I realize now I should have done that earlier, but because I realized it in time, my grades became higher and I passed the final exams. Question: what is something new you've learned in the past year? Answer: mention skills that are relevant to the position you are interviewing for. Discuss professional and personal skills you have learned. Spin any negative experiences into positive ones. Align your answer with the values of the company. Question: you have 2 minutes. Tell me something impressive. Answer: simply tell the interviewer about a success in the past. As you can see, many of these questions should be answered with a power statement, which should all have memorized before the interview. 2 minutes is a long time for a short message, so add some details and/or humor to it. Question: if I gave you $2,000, how would you invest that money? Answer: there are many possible answers to this, some of which could include inventory, marketing, website building, etc. It will depend on what the company does with its money. Convince the interviewer that you spend your money wisely and that you do your research before you take risks. Question: do you have any questions for me? Answer: yes, you do. You did your homework, and you're going to either read the questions from the notes you took or ask them because you memorized them. This is very important. Don't say, nope, I'm done. This is an opportunity for you to show that you are curious and interested in the company. With these things in mind, you will be armed and ready for your next job interview. Remember to rehearse what you'll say, to be flexible and expect follow-up questions, to leave a lasting impression, to send follow-up notes and make calls, and most of all, to send powerful messages by the things you say. As you can see from these questions, there are no definite answers, and you should not be a stiff. Improvise. Try to relax and smile a lot with your eyes, not just your teeth, or it will look creepy. However, it doesn't matter that the interview could go into all different directions. You should always have something to say and not just fluff. Be prepared, and you will find that your chances of getting a great job will be a lot higher than if you go there with a desperate, lazy, or ignorant attitude. Good luck in your job search.